our community at Devex is a lot of people who are working in development, and a lot of those people are working at NGOs or organizations that would say, hey, well, I want to partner with Coke. I want to work with Coke. So I'm curious, how can they work with Coke? What is your due diligence process for evaluating, NGO partners, or for that matter, corporate partners? How do you go about, okay, so obviously you have to have alignment, you have to have sort of this relationship, but what's sort of the process? What does that look like?
So it's a very detailed process, and process is important. It makes me a little crazy at times, but we have everyone involved, from lawyers, accountants, to organizations that help us do background checks. It's really important because you need to know who you're working with and can they truly deliver on the skill that they've presented as their core expertise. It's all the people you probably would expect, but then there's also a lot of regional NGOs or businesses who come forward and say, well, I've seen this project, I can work in this space with you, and then we get our local market involved to make sure that we're meeting with them and looking at their capability. And we also open up our books too. We let them look at our capability to make sure it's a true partnership.
It's one of the things you mentioned is working with other companies, and this is sort of an emerging trend that I'm starting to hear from people, that companies are starting to really think about, well, who are the other companies that we could be working with? Where is there sort of an alignment of our goals? And sometimes it's going to be within the same industry or outside the same industry. Is that something that you guys are doing actively now? Are you, do you see this as something that's going to be a bigger part of what you're doing? And how do you go about figuring out who are those right partners?
So, it starts for us with what objective are we trying to achieve, and then what skills do we have versus who has other skills or expertise that can be done differently and better. We have an initiative that we call Eco Center. It's Coke spelled backwards, center for community center in a box. Think about a unit that gets delivered to a woman in a local community. She now becomes a shopkeeper, but it has more than just goods and services inside this box or kiosk. It also has connectivity, a water supply, energy, and she's able to resell these things into the community. Well, I'm not an expert at Coca-Cola in energy, so who do we partner with in that space? And it depends on who's that expert in that local community. Or connectivity. Ericsson is one of our partners in this program because they have that expertise in how to actually connect the world in these most rural locations. And so when we built that program, we looked at, well, who can help deliver the goods and services? Who can best train the women locally? Which governments do we need to work with to ensure that this is happening? And we're very quiet about it, but if you go to our website, you'll find we have 100 of them placed today, all the way from Africa to Vietnam and a couple other places.